Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 2 of the Ottercar AI Racing Series. Today, back in the UK for our first round of the playoffs, first race of the playoffs at that, and we are here today at the Silverstone circuit for the Airporthamchestershireworth Grand Prix. And of course, Silverstone, probably a track that has never held these cars before. I don't know. I don't have a 100% word on that, but just a feeling, just a hunch that maybe, possibly, they have not raced super late models on this here F1 track. And as actually a matter of fact, here Silverstone hosted the first ever world hosted the first ever Formula 1 race back in the 1950s. Of course, this track got its name and the name for the race for a reason. This was a former World War II air base, and after the war ended, they just had all this laying around, nothing really to do with it, so why not slap a racetrack down on it, connect the runways together, bam, there you go, problem solved. This track honestly hosts way more races than I can possibly describe here in this list, but basically every major racing series in all of Europe comes here, and basically every racing series that exists in the UK comes to this track. And I mean, it's been around since the 1940s. It has a lot of history to it, and any track that says it can host the first ever Formula One race ever is kind of a big deal. But coming in, going to be a little bit of a longer track, not the longest track we have ever been to. It comes in at 3.19 miles or 5.14 kilometers, so just a little bit shorter than Road America for the Cheese Rubber Grand Prix we had a couple of races ago. And of course, not in the US either. This is first, or actually this is the second, I believe, of our two races here in the UK. Couple of races ago, went back to the Oulton Park circuit in Little Budworth, Cheshire. Today here in Towcester, Northamptonshire. You can see the point of where this race's name came from. But regardless, drivers are working on their qualifying laps right now, and it's not looking really good for anyone. Looking around the field, it is looking like no one has managed to actually set a qualifying time yet. Everyone has repeatedly spun off the track in qualifying. Currently looking down at that 818 of MF Beatus. It looks like he's doing okay so far. Maybe we'll see him be the one driver to... Oh, well, nope, there he goes off the track. Never mind. So that's not going to be a qualifying lap here for the 818 machine. We might just have to skip qualifying and leave it up to fate if none of these drivers are able to set down a qualifying lap. Because so far, looking around the field, every single driver has gone off track at some point in their opening lap. Oh, well, no, I say that. We are starting to get some lap times coming in here, so I guess some people actually managed to turn a clean lap here. So far, of the drivers who were actually able to set a lap, Dwayne Day is the best of the bunch here with a 156.63, and of course we see Dwayne Day down there going off the racetrack, so his neck, excuse me, that's just cheating. You can't do that. Obviously this lap's going to be invalidated. That's not even something I can control, but that's quite the shortcut, and I'm a little bit afraid we're going to see drivers try that shortcut here in the race where they can get away with it. But here in qualifying, that's a big no-no. So this will be invalidating Dwayne Day's next qualifying lap. So a 156.63 is the best that he's going to be able to do here. But at least he's getting some practice in for potentially making a big move here in the actual event itself. Of course, drivers highlighted here in those purple bars on the timing and scoring tower, those are our drivers who have managed to get into the playoffs here today. First race of the playoffs, and 5 races left here in the actual season. Leading the playoff standings right now is the three machine of thirds, which makes sense. She's the only driver to have picked up 2 wins so far here this season. She leads the playoff with 1,046 points. Then it's going to be Ash without an E back in second with 1,032. Madcap in third, 1,030. Ame Sakuramori, 1,027. Dwayne Day, 1,024. Then it's tied between Ash with an E and Rally with 1,020. Then Ashley in the 18, last driver, still in the good right now, is 1,018 points to her name. Then the drivers that are below the cutoff line right now coming into tonight's event is currently tied between August and Chris Cox, both with 1,016 points to their name. Then Zoe with 1,010, and Limited Time at the very bottom of the roster with 1,007 points. Looks like Dwayne Day has completed their attempts at qualifying. So let's take a look down at that 44. Probably our least likely of any driver to make it into the playoffs. Everyone was a little bit shocked to see that limited time number 44 make it into the playoffs. And while they are here, they are below the cut line. So it does check out a little bit that they are very last place in the playoffs right now, but they are in the playoffs nonetheless, and they do have these next 2 events to try and get up above that cut line. I know the playoffs here are a little bit confusing, so I'll try my best to explain how these drivers got to the points they are. I unfortunately don't have a graphic to be able to pull up on screen here to explain it, but everyone here should be in the Discord server with the exception of Dwayne Day, our current pole sitter, and so far no one's actually contested the pole from him quite yet. Basically, at the start of the playoffs, all of these drivers' points were reset to 1,000, and then they earned bonus points for every top 10 finish that they got so far here this season. So those are being added to their totals right now, but otherwise it's been completely reset. And then it's going to be the best of the next 2 races for all of these playoff drivers, plus their playoff points. We eliminate 4, and then when round 2 of the playoffs kicks off, we reset their point totals again, and then add those bonus points for top 10 finishes back onto it. So it's a little bit confusing, it's a little bit convoluted. That's the joy of the NASCAR playoffs, is they're confusing and convoluted in real life too. So we're just going to work our way through them, do the best we can, and it'll make more sense after today's race, I think, and once we get into the next round of the playoffs. Currently looking down at the 369 of drop table roster, one of the few drivers still out here on the speedway attempting to put a qualifying time down. It's not looking like anyone's going to be contesting that 156.63 of Dwayne Day. Looks like Dwayne Day, Kevin 11, the only drivers setting a lap time in the 156 range. Everyone else anywhere from 157 flat. Rally actually set it perfect on the dot with 157 flat. But the lap times go all the way down to the slowest time that's actually been set is a 2:01.9 by Sarah something. Then it has, looks like about 5 drivers that have not been able to set a qualifying time. So Chris Cox, Madcap Sarkin, Bloody Wolf, Jeremy Albertson, not able to post a qualifying time here today. And I'll tell you what, for for Chris Cox, who is below the cut line right now, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, Chris Cox is below the cut line right now, and he is going to be starting at the tail end of the field. So potentially disaster early goings in the playoffs here for some of these drivers, but still got a long race to go, and it looks like qualifying is officially in the book. So we're going to go ahead and advance this and get our starting lineup underway here. So unfortunately, while this is one of the largest tracks on the Ottercar circuit, like I said, a little bit shorter than Road America with the Cheese Rubber Grand Prix, so not quite the biggest. But unlike Road America, this track does not have the option for a shortened parade lap, so we are going to be sitting here for a wonderful 5 minutes while these drivers make their way around this 3.19 mile long circuit. That gives us a little bit of time to chat, a little bit of time to relax and catch our breath before we get going with this green flag racing. It's going to be 17 laps here for the Airporthamchestershireworth Grand Prix. Let's take a look down at our starting grid, though, see how things will be shaken off. Starting out on the pole, it's going to be one of our playoff drivers. That's going to be the number 4 of Dwayne Day, with the 7 of Kevin 11 for the Shelter for Strays team, starting off back to his outside. Back in third, one of the hybrid development team drivers, that's going to be the 26 of Rally, followed by another Shelter for Strays driver. That's going to be the 12 of Pav, who nearly made his way into the playoffs last week at New Hampshire for the Wives, the Canadian Anthem, playing 65. He was up at the lead of the race. He actually wrecked someone out of the race in order to take the win, or excuse me, in order to take the lead of the race, but just wasn't quite there at the end to be able to take home the win. He, of course, was in a must-win situation in that 12 machine, unfortunately unable to make it to the playoffs. But still opportunity to take home race wins, even if you aren't contending for the race championship overall. You can still win the race even if you're not a playoff driver. Speaking of playoff drivers, though, back in fifth, that's going to be the 030 of Ash, followed by the number 2 of the hybrid development team entry. That's Ame Sakaramori back in sixth. Seventh place going to go back to the 3 machine of third. So that's another Shelter for Strays driver, followed by the 330 of Lake, one of the members of the Kill the President racing team. Back in ninth, the 44 of Limited Time, the Kill the President racing team entry that actually is in the playoffs. Again, to everyone's shock, no one thought Limited Time, out of all the drivers here in the field, was going to be the one to make it in, but he just barely scraped his way on in points. Back in 10th, though, for the Blazing Drunk drivers, that's going to be the 37 of Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games, followed by the 11 of Ash and the 1 of Med back in 12th. 13th going to go back to the 800 of Deeg, followed by the 21 of August. Emma Fetus in the 818 back in 15th, followed by the 88 of Ashley. Ashley is another one of those playoff drivers not getting the best start here this evening. And there is the 666 entry of Zoe as well. Zoe also a playoff entry here in that 666. She was in a must-win situation. The only driver to get into the playoffs on a win that would not have had enough points to make it in otherwise. So Zoe very lucky she got that win under her belt back at the previous British track we visited. And maybe she'll have some luck here today as well. Back in 18th, though, that's going to be the 420 of Oh You Know, followed by the 369 of Drop Table Roster. The 776 of Valnar is going to be bringing it home back in position number 20, followed by the 777 of Sarah Something. Then we get into the drivers that were unable to set a qualifying time. Bloody Wolf in the 93, Madcap in the 38, 23rd, and 24th. Well, that's going to be Sarah Something. No. It's going to be Jeremy Albertson and Sarkin, 25th, 26th, followed by the 69 of Chris Cox, rounding out the tail end of the field here in the 69. And again, Chris Cox is a playoff driver, and he is starting this race in last place. So he's got a lot of work that he has to do here today. Of course, there is next week's event as well, but with only 2 races per playoff round, you can't afford to make a mistake anymore. As that green flag is up in the air here for the Airporthamchestershireworth Grand Prix. And it's going to be Dwayne Day leading the field down into turn number 1. Already a little bit of beating and banging further back in the mid-pack of the field here as everyone's vying for position here in the early going to the things. Now heading into a very fast series of S's here down into Maggots and Beckett's. Side by side, we have a couple of drivers off the speedway. It looks like they're, sure enough, the drivers are just kind of dooring them to each other and sending each other off the track. Already we have almost a complete track blocker here, as a ton of cars get spun around. It doesn't look like anyone really has any serious damage, though. It looks like most of these drivers should be able to get it rolling again. But nope, sure enough, we've had drivers calling the tow truck, so we're going to be immediately throwing the caution flag here. Making things difficult, why not? So in that whole kerfuffle, somehow Limited Time 44, a playoff driver, is our race leader now. Up +8 from where he qualified. Managed to skirt his way through all of the drama there, down through Maggots and Beckett's, and now he is our race leader. And this is another driver who is down beneath the cut line. So he limited time, like he could mathematically make it in if he does really, really well and everyone else does really, really poorly. But frankly, this driver it would be sitting a lot better if he could win this race and just automatically lock himself into the round of 8 coming up here in a few weeks. But the whole field's been jumbled up here, so back in second, that is going to be the 800 of Deeg now, followed by Queen Amatrine, sponsored by Riot Games. Back in third, that's going to be Lake in fourth, MF Beatus in fifth. And then the next driver that's actually in the playoffs right now is Ame Sakaramori in the number 2 machine back in 8th. And it looks like Ame might have some damage because it's running a little bit off the pace here. Little bit off the pace, and yeah, it looks like Ame might be pulling on down to pit lane here. So now going past Ame, the next best driver in the playoffs right now is back in 16th. So I'll tell you what, limited time 44 comes into the playoffs. Last place just barely scrapes into it on points. Last place in the playoffs point standings in basically a must-win situation, and he is our race leader with no playoff drivers behind him for a full 15 positions. Now that, mind you, there is the blocker cars that weren't involved in that wreck at all that are in the middle of the whole bunch here. So that will be shaking things up a little bit. But still, the limited time could not ask to be in a better position right now. But who knows? I mean, there's still plenty of opportunity. We're getting word that why is their drivers off the track under caution? Why is OUNO missing his front bumper? Why is one of OUNO's tires rolling across the track? What happened? We're under yellow. Huh? Hold on a minute. We need to do some investigative journalism here. What the hell happened? This is after the yellow flag has been thrown. We are under caution at the point of this recording. OUNO goes off the track. He decides to take the shortcut at full speed, completely blows it. The tire goes rolling off, and there's Bloody Wolf and Sarkin just getting blocked by him. We see the tire back in the background there, rolling back onto the speedway now. What the hell? We're under caution. There's no reason for this. The yellow flag is out. It's been out for like a solid minute prior to this happening. I mean, I guess his bio isn't wrong about being his own worst enemy. I don't know what the thought process was there. Okay, well, I guess it's a good thing OUNO's not in the playoffs, because if he was, he would have just pretty much completely eliminated himself out of it. So we are still under yellow here. We do have a couple of drivers down on pit lane. Ame Sakaramori stuck down on pit lane here, but not in last place, considering how many of these drivers have completely biffed it. We have a couple more drivers making the call to come down pit lane as well, and it looks like these might be scheduled pit stops. We have drop table roster coming down thirds, Rally, Sarkin, Madcap, and Valnar making their way down onto pit lane. So might see some early strategizing going in on these pit stops. Of course, none of these drivers have enough fuel to make it to the end of the race, and I don't think any of them really have damage, so these should be scheduled pit stops as far as I'm concerned. And sure enough, already making their way out, so just a splash of fuel for all of these drivers, all setting times down in their pit box. About 7.5 seconds on average. So it looks like just fuel is the call for these drivers, no tires. And now the big question is, will they have enough to make it to the end of the race? As Rally is now off the track. Why are we taking the shortcut under caution? You can't gain positions under caution. You're not benefiting anything here. Sarkin's still going. What's the point? I understand you need to catch the field and nearly take out drop table roster and thirds. Mind you, thirds is a playoff driver that Sarkin just nearly killed. I don't understand what the thought process is here. Why are we trying to take shortcuts under yellow? I mean, under green, yeah, sure, that's whatever. But under yellow? Why? So it looks like everyone is back out on the speedway with the exception of Ame Sakuramori, who has now been stuck down there for over 4.5 minutes. Still being scored back in 20th in front of Ash with an E, who is a playoff driver, in front of Dwayne Day, who is a playoff driver, in front of Ash without an E, who is a playoff driver, in front of Ashley in the 88, who is a playoff driver, in front of Zoe, who is a playoff driver, and in front of Chris Cox, who is a playoff driver. So to put that in better English for you, limited time, thirds, and Madcap are the only playoff drivers still in the race. We have gone from a field of 12 playoff drivers to a field of 3 in a single lap under green. So I guess if nothing else, this race basically isn't going to count for everyone except limited time, who is in a must-win situation in the playoffs, and Madcap in thirds. I don't get it. I'm even more concerned by the fact that aside from Ame Sakuramori, who is actually making its way back out on the track now, everyone from 19th back is not in their pit boxes. They're just not on the track, period. As Ame goes off the track trying to catch up to the pace car here. And Ame's going to take the shortcut as well. Again, why? Why can't you just be normal? So we've stacked him back up 2 by 2 here. And I'm going to be ruining our immersion here for just a quick little second. Let's see. It's not going to tell me the info I want to see, which is have all of these drivers that are stuck down on pit lane right now. Let's just get an example. Jeremy Albertson. Where is he? You. Have you retired from the race? Like, what's your deal? Why are you not on the track? It's not going to tell me in here, is it? Nope. Alright, well, we're just going to have to wait and find out, I guess, what's happened to all these drivers that have just vanished into the void. Because what I'm worried about here is I think that all these drivers from 22nd on back all retired from the race. They decided that for whatever reason they cannot continue the race and withdrew. Which, if so, is a monumental problem because that was effectively all of the playoff drivers. I'm baffled. Because none of them got really any damage. Most of them all came to a stop without getting involved in any sort of incident there. So I don't know what the deal is. But regardless, I guess we're just going to focus on being back to the race. It's going to be limited time in Deeg, your front row, coming to the green here, as our field has been effectively cut in half by this first incident. And now, honestly, more than anything else, it's a question of will limited time actually win the race? Because even if limited time comes in second, that doesn't really help him a tremendous amount. But a win would be great for him. So we'll just have to see. Getting ready to come back around to the start finish line now. We're going to try this thing again. Maybe with a smaller field, we might do a little bit better at navigating through Maggots and Beckett and actually make a lap under green. Possibly, maybe, who knows. Green flag back up in the air. We're going to try this thing again, and the inside line has just been caught with their pants down. I don't know what the deal was there, but drop table roster wants nothing to do with it. He's immediately going to send it 3 wide around all the blocker cars and now get blocked by the blocker cars himself. That was a very messy restart for what has been overall a very, very messy race. Lake is just off the track again. And now she gets it rolling, and now we have drivers all over the place up at the front of the field as limited time tries to take the shortcut, and nope, that's not going to happen. MF Vetus having the same issue as well. Would you believe it? Oh, well, there's drop table roster. We're under caution again. I don't understand. Well, that puts a little bit of a complication on limited times effectively must-win situation. See if we can't go back a little bit further here. Get a replay of this. I am baffled by these drivers and their lack of ability to drive. Every single one of them went off the speedway. It'd almost be kind of impressive if it weren't so sad. We have more drivers back there also with damage. Ash with an E. Looks like he was involved in a wreck. Let's take a look back. See if we can't go down to him. Ash with an E. Running much further back in this field. Will he be able to take the first corner correctly? As a matter of fact, he will. That's a shocker. One of the few drivers actually racing the track correctly. And, oh, there's Met. I see. It's starting to seem like this is a little bit less of a question of who will survive the race, or who will win the race, and more a question of who will actually survive this whole ordeal. Let's take a look down from our blimp cam, see if we can't get a little bit of a wider view of the drama as everyone goes everywhere out here. Not a single driver attempted to take that corner correctly. I know it's the playoffs and you gotta, it's all for all the marbles, you gotta do really, really questionable things to make things work here, but what the hell, y'all? We can't complete a single lap. Let me jump back up to the live queue now. Madcap is being scored as our race leader. Madcap is a playoff driver. He is above the cut line right now, but regardless, a race win would lock him in as advancing to the round of 8 no matter what happens. But Val, buddy, we're under yellow again. No, I don't understand. How does this keep happening? Why are we taking shortcuts at full racing speed under yellow? This simply is not necessary. I don't even know if I can blame peak comedy on this. I think this is beyond peak comedy's capabilities of race manipulation. I'm at a loss here. I don't know what the deal is. Regardless, for the sake of my sanity and everyone else's, and so this race doesn't drag on for multiple years, we're going to be shorting this caution lap. Despite the fact people are on pit lane, we haven't even done a full lap under caution yet. We have 12 cars still being scored as on the speedway on the lead lap here. Actually, that's not true. We have 11 cars being scored as being on the lead lap. 4 of them are the blockers, so take the blockers out. We have 7 Ottercar drivers being scored as still alive and well and healthy. I don't know if we're going to be able to crown a race winner. What happens if the race never ends because no one makes it to the finish? We have lots of questions here that we're going to have to figure out the answer to. You know, I don't know. I do not know. Maybe the blocker car wins. I don't know. You know what? If a blocker car wins, I think I have a contingency plan for what's going to happen should we be in that event. I'm not going to reveal what it is unless it happens, but I think I have a contingency ready to sort things out should we need to. But for now, there's still 7 participants that aren't blocker cars that could potentially be involved here. Looks like Ame Sakuramori is back on the track, and it is going to be getting the wave around, so Ame will be put back on the lead lap here. But now, for the sake of our sanity, we are shortening this caution. We are already 19 minutes into this race, and we have only completed 6 of the 17 scheduled laps. We're going to stack them up 2 by 2. We still got half the track left to get around before we can go green flag racing again. But we're getting there. Slowly but surely. Very, very slowly, as a matter of fact. You can see most of the field is bundled up down there in pit lane. They want nothing to do with this anymore. But it does look officially like Dwayne Day, Kevin 11, Pav. No, Pav's still out here, I think. No. Huh? Oh, did I sort it by position? Yeah, I sorted it by position. That makes a lot more sense. I was trying to figure out why it was saying Pav was on the track on the map, but not on the timing and scoring. That's because we had it set to show cars on the map by their position and not by their car number. So yeah, looking through our list, it looks like Dwayne Day, Kevin 11, Pav, Ash without knee, August, Ashley, Zoe, Jeremy Albertson, and Chris Cox retired from the event outright. They just quit. Which frankly isn't something I even knew AI could do. I'll tell you what, Ottercar is pushing us to new bounds. We are learning together as a community. We're racing cars, maybe, and we're green flag racing, and look at that. I was not paying attention to where the cars were on the track. Green flag is back up in the air. Madcap and Queen Amatrine absolutely pull away from the rest of the field here as they're all stuck behind the blocker cars. Of course, these two drivers are teammates. Madcap here in the playoffs. Queen Ametrine is not. Now the question is, will we see Ametrine race Madcap for actual position? Evidently so, as she's going to spin Madcap out. There's Sarkin trying to take the shortcut. Will he be able to do it without wrecking himself? No, he will not. And he comes immediately back up onto the racing line. There's Deeg coming in as well. I'm starting to get a feeling that we might actually have to break out the blocker race win contingency plan. But you know what? I'm going to be evil. I'm just going to let the race keep going. If these three idiots battling it out for the race lead still find a way to wreck, then we'll throw another caution. But from now on, we're just going to pretend that turn 1 incidents do not exist. That's not even turn 1. That's what? That's Beckett. So we're going to pretend incidents and Beckett's aren't real for the rest of this race. Currently looking at the battle for second between Lake, Queen Ametrine, and thirds in that 3 cars. Rally sails away to a 4.6 second lead. 10 more laps around the circuit, and mind you, laps under green are still over a full minute in length as Lake pulls off to the side of the track. So now it's just between Queen Ametrine and thirds, as effectively the only battle actually going on here on the speedway. What a disaster event. What a just... I have no words. Queen Ametrine's going to be pulling it down to pit lane. I don't know why she didn't pit under those millions of caution laps that we had here. But sure enough, Queen Ametrine goes down onto pit lane. Rally still leads the field, with thirds having to figure out how to make up a 4-second deficit. And now everyone is more than 3 seconds apart from each other. So if we can't handle Maggots and Beckett's by ourselves, then I don't know what we're going to be able to do here. But it looks like these drivers are actually taking the corners correctly, which is a monumental shocker. I didn't think it was possible. But the field's so strung out here, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Rally might just straight up win like this. Who knows? All I know is that it's been a little bit of a disaster for everyone here at Silverstone. I'm at a loss for words at everything that's happened here in this race. Apparently is that 26 of Rally leading the field. Rally, of course, is a playoff driver, so a win here would be advancing them into the round of 8, just straight up. Just a matter of completing these next 9 laps without making any sort of monumental mistakes, like that one. That one counts. That's not the racing surface whatsoever, as now thirds closes that gap down from about 4 seconds to 1.5 with minimal effort. Third's the only multi-time winner here in Ottercar and the current leader of the playoff standings here in Ottercar. She, more than anyone else, is basically confirmed to be going into the round of 8 as long as she doesn't get involved in a lap 1, turn 1 incident like everyone else in the field did. And now the gap down is to call it about 4 car lengths between Rally and thirds. And now that we have 2 cars close to each other again, I'm a little bit scared of Maggots and Beckett's here. We might see some questionable actions on display between these drivers as they battle for the race win. And sure enough, thirds goes off the track. Is thirds going to be taking the shortcut? Yes, she is. Will she be able to do it? No, she will not. It has not worked for any of these drivers. And it's not going to work for her either. And again, we've established now I'm not throwing the caution for wrecks coming out of Beckett's. I don't care anymore. Beckett's is not a real corner. Because if we do, then we would be throwing a caution for Beckett's literally every single corner. And look at that, Ash actually takes the shortcut correctly. I'm so proud of him. The only driver that's been able to do it without wrecking so far. Oh, well, didn't work for Sarah. Didn't work for Sarah something. Sucks to suck. We're still not throwing the caution. I don't care if it takes every single driver in this field dying. We're not throwing the caution for incidences in Maggots and Beckett's anymore. If these drivers want to take a shortcut that they have established does not work from approximately 10 other cars attempting it and eliminating themselves from the race, then they don't deserve a caution. They are suffering from the consequences of their actions. And what's a little bit scary to say here is there is only 4 Ottercar drivers left on the speedway before we potentially see a blocker car win the race and have to break out the emergency contingency plan, such as it is. And Rally's going to be coming down pit lane. And this might be a scheduled stop. Rally has come in once before, back on lap number 1. Madcap also going to be coming down pit lane, so it does look like this is a strategy call on both of their parts. Rally and Madcap and Ame Sakuramori, the only playoff drivers still left in the field. That incident for thirds is going to be race ending. I don't know what to make of it. Lake's going to be scored as our new race leader. And it looks like she did successfully navigate her way through Maggots and Beckett somehow, so that's a little bit of a relief. But the field very spread out here. The only actual battle happening here on the speedway is between the blocker cars, and Madcap just went off the track. Madcap's trying the shortcut. Oh no. Alright, if nothing else, at least Madcap successfully took the shortcut and didn't explode. Otherwise, we're really rapidly running out of drivers to race here at Silverstone. How about we go back and get a blocker cam? Let's see how the blockers are doing here today. Having the time of their lives here in these little Formula Vs. Let's get an onboard view with these blocker cars as they absolutely lay down some flying laps here at this circuit. They sure are zooming, one way or another. All of them watching it are 4 remaining drivers with bated breath, hoping for the opportunity that one day they might be the winner of an Ottercar AI Racing Series event. They were born and destined to fail, and despite all odds, there is actual opportunity for them to potentially be successful, particularly as Lake is off the track. Let's get an onboard view here. That shortcut is not going to work. And now only 3 Ottercar drivers remain. The field grows smaller. The potential for the blocker cars to win grows bigger. Rally, please don't tell me you're also taking the shortcut. You are, but at least you did it correctly. So Rally, once again, works their way back up to being our new race leader. There are only a small handful of Ottercar drivers left here in the field. It's quite the experience. So we do have Ash and Med still on the track. They are both being scored multiple laps down here. And with how big this track is, I don't think they're going to be able to unlap themselves with it staying green. So it all comes down to Rally, Queen, Amatrine, Madcap, and Ame Sakuramori. And Ame does have the potential to get back up to these blocker cars and get around them. Ame is on the lead lap here, so it's just a matter of closing that about 20-second gap to the blocker cars. And the speed difference between the super late model and the in the blocker cars. That is possible. And speaking of blocker cars, the battle for the blocker car lead here is heating up between blocker and blocker 4. They're battling with all their might here because they know this is their one single opportunity to potentially take home an Ottercar race win. You gotta get out the bottle box for this thing. These drivers are going at it here in these blocker cars. They're putting more effort into it than the Ottercar drivers are, that's for sure. As we see Ash with an E go off the speedway, will we see Ash with an E explode? As a matter of fact, yes, we will. The Ottercar field narrows further as we see Rally also taking the shortcut. And again, Rally does it correctly this time, which Ash with an E cannot say. Drop table roster also trying for it. He does it successfully, but he's also being scored 5 laps down, so it doesn't matter. Exciting. So, it's still Rally, Queen Ametrine, and Madcap, and Ame Sakaramori as the big question marks here that could potentially hamper a blocker car victory. As Med goes off the track. Med, oh no. Med, what are you doing? Med. Alright, Med takes the corner successfully. Go Med. And there's Ame Sakaramori making its way around the first of the blocker cars. So the blocker cars do officially have an additional contender to deal with 5 laps left to go. 4 drivers that just need to blow it in Maggots and Beckett for them to be taking home an Ottercar race win. I never thought I would see the day, but here we are. What an experience we have going on here. Rally crosses the line, 4 laps left to go. Will Rally be able to handle 4 more attempts of cutting Maggots and Beckett's like it's not a corner and like track limits don't exist? Or will we potentially see someone who's not a playoff driver take home the race win? That would be a little scary. Nope, Rally is taking the corner correctly this time, believe it or not. Let's take a look down at Queen Ametrine back in second. Will Queen Ametrine take the corner correctly? Yes, she will. What about Madcap? Madcap has his good boy shoes on. You know who doesn't drop table roster? Who's cutting the corner. Again. This time being successful with it. I don't know if this is legal. Are we allowed to show this on a broadcast? This is just mass death at this rate. And there's Ame Sakaramori about to interrupt this battle going on between the blocker cars. This is here between blocker and blocker 4 for the blocker race lead. Should they actually be able to have Rally, Queen Ametrine, Madcap, and Ame crash out. But now, I mean, Ame is a full minute behind our race leaders. But Ame could still potentially win this race somehow. I don't know if this isn't really constituted as racing anymore. But it certainly will shake off the playoffs one way or another. All competitive integrity has been thrown out of the window. But just what a time it has been here today. We're 35 minutes into this thing, by the way. This entire race would be under caution if we didn't decide to stop throwing cautions for incidences in Maggots and Beckett. Now we see Rally once again trying this set of corners. Will they be able to do it correctly? Uh-oh, looks like Ame might be going for the shortcut this time. Yup, they're going for the shortcut. And the shortcut is successful. A little bit further back, let's look down at Queen Amatrine. Looks like Queen Amatrine and Madcap both going to take it successfully. There's Drop Table Roster still on the track, being scored still 5 laps down. But he is present. Gotta give him that much. He is still alive. And a lot of these Ottercar drivers can't quite say the same. But it is now a full about 4 to 5 seconds between every driver left here on the field. And again, the closest battle on the speedway is still the battle here between these two blocker cars. They're really trying their best here at this track that is just way too big for what they're designed for. But they sure as hell are trying. Fortunately, now that we are 3 to go, unless our top 4 Ottercar drivers all mess it up at the same time, things are not looking particularly good for these blocker cars. As we see Ame go off the track through Maggots and Beckets. Oh no. And Ame takes the corner. Correctly enough. That's good enough for me. At this rate, that might as well just be the racing line. Gonna be 2 to go here in the Airporthamchestershireworth Grand Prix as we've seen Queen Amatrine come on down pit lane. Crazy how that basically won't affect her position at all because there's only 4 cars left. And as we head down once again here into Maggots and Beckets, we might be making that 3 cars, particularly as Rally tries to overtake this blocker car. Nope, Rally is still good in that 26 machine. Will we see Madcap be able to handle things all right? Looks like the answer is yes. Drop Table Roster, on the other hand, not quite so much. Will he take it correctly? This time he's flirting with death here. He has seen what every other Ottercar driver has tried to do and failed, and is just rubbing it in their faces that it is possible to actually take the shortcut without dying. But it's still going to be Rally leading the field with a full 8-second lead. And I guess Rally's going to be locking themselves into the round of 8 somehow. What an event it has been. Madcap working his way around one of those blocker cars back there as we see Ame Sakuramori make the call to come down pit lane. This should be a scheduled stop, I believe, for the driver of that number 2 machine. And regardless, I mean, if nothing else, Rally Madcap and Ame Sakuramori will be building up a comfortable points lead here in the playoffs, as the next best playoff driver, who is, of course, wrecked out of the race, is third, being scored back in 11th. That'll be nullifying that big lead she has with playoff points pretty handily here. And hopefully, next week's event will be a little bit of a more normal race here. White flag going to be flying for the 26 of Rally. Just one more time around the circuit. Ame Sakuramori is off the track. Ame. Alright, Ame takes the corner successfully. That's all that matters. Rally takes the corner successfully so far. Sure enough, Rally survives Maggots and Beckets. Rally looks like they will be locking themselves into the round of 8 with some stiff competition, question mark. I don't know. It has been quite the experience here today. I propose we all forget this happened, never come back. This was just a fever dream. It's not real. Anyone who says they otherwise is lying. Madcap has closed the distance down from 8 seconds to 5. It's not going to be enough here, but if Madcap had another lap or 2, he might actually be able to close the distance between himself and Rally. Sure enough, with an effectively uncontested win, Rally's going to be heading down through 15 and 16 for the final times, heading down through Woodcut, and Rally will be scored as our first winner here in the Ottercar playoffs, and going to be locking themselves in to the round of 8. I would love to say that was a hard-fought win and a really impressive display of skill and talent, but it really wasn't. That was a freebie. That was a free win, but it is a win nonetheless. That's half the battle. Rally, Madcap, Queen Ametrine, and Ame Sakuramori, your 4 drivers that actually survive here at the Airporthamchestershireworth Grand Prix. What a show. What an event. There's no words to describe what we have just spent the last 42 minutes watching, but it sure was something. Looks like we're still having a few drivers remaining out on the track that we have to wait to cross the checkered flag before we can actually pull up our race results here and discuss what all actually happened and who is where. So we're going to give it another moment or two while we wait for iRacing to decide the race is over. And then we're going to put this all behind us, get ourselves ready for next week's event for the Virginia's for Otter Lovers 90 at VIR. And then we're going to be eliminating 8 drivers after VIR. It's a little weird to think about that. It's an average between what happened in this race and what happens in the next race to determine who makes it into the round of 8. But sure enough, I'm assuming that iRacing is maybe waiting for the blocker cars to complete their last lap. That's my only guess here. Is according, oh, there we go. The race results have now been posted, and they sure are results, I guess. So the hybrid development team and the Blazing Drunk drivers are going to be taking a monumental lead over everyone else in the team championship, if nothing else, with Rally, Madcap, Queen Ametrine, sponsored by Riot Games, and Ame Sakuramori, your only drivers to finish on the lead lap. And more effectively, your only drivers to finish. Then we have the 4 blocker cars, of course, they don't count. So technically, Med is going to be walking away with a top 5 here in that one machine, followed by Lake, thirds, Ash, Drop Table Roster, Sarkin, Deeg back in 15th, Sarah Something, Valnar, MFB to 17th and 18th. Then we jump it further on back with thirds, Ash, Drop Table Roster, Sarah Something, Deeg, Bloody Wolf back in 20th, Limited Time in the 44 back in 19th. This was Limited Time's time to shine, and he blew it. That's going to be, oh, you know, Dwayne Day, Kevin 11, Pav, Ash, August, Ashley, and Zoe. Nothing like 25th, 26th, 27th, and 28th in your race, all being playoff drivers. So this puts everyone except for Rally, Madcap, and Queen Ametrine, and Ame in a really difficult position here, because effectively all they have to work with is however they do next week at Virginia. What are we hearing? What is going on down there? Excuse me. Blocker cars. What was that? Hold on a second. What was that? We're not going to be signing the race off quite yet, folks. So we have more investigative journalism to do here. What was that? Alright, okay, we're looking good so far. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh. Well, there's our issue. I think Rally ran out of fuel. I don't know any more race fans. I'm turning the stream off. We've had enough of this. Yeah, okay. Goodbye. That's enough of that.